Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to really one of the most incredible candidates of all times. Welcome back to the FIDE Candidates in 2024 that's going on now in Toronto in Canada. We're now in the last round of this amazing, spectacular, historical tournament, and before this round we had really a wild situation. The leader after 13 rounds was Gukesh with 8.5 points on the second, third and fourth place, but shared second place were of course Nepomniachtchi, Hikaru Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana with 8 points, which basically meant that if Gukesh with the black pieces today wins his game against Hikaru Nakamura, then he's the winner for sure. If their game ends with a draw, then of course we have to also consider the game between Fabiano Caruana and also Nepomniachtchi, because if someone of Fabi or Jan wins the game, then of course they could reach the tiebreaks if of course Gukesh and Hikaru Nakamura play a draw. When I started now to record the video and when I watch now the game between Gukesh and Hikaru Nakamura, this game should probably end with a draw because they have opposite colored bishops. I think in top GM level no one will lose the game, so I think it's a draw, which basically means now that Fabiano Caruana or Jan Nepomniachtchi had to now win the game in order to reach somehow the tiebreaks against Gukesh. If this game between Fabi and Jan ends with a draw, then of course Gukesh is the winner of the FIDE Candidates in 2024. So let's dive now into the most important game of this round, Fabiano Caruana against Jan Nepomniachtchi. The game finished a couple of minutes ago. Really crazy things happen. So let's see now the game. So with the white pieces here, Fabi opened with the move d4. We have knight to f6 by Jan Nepomniachtchi, c4, e6, knight to c3, d5, queen's gambit declined, c takes d5. The best, I think, sideline in the queen's gambit decline, simply going into the exchange variation, simplify the game, going into a static position where not so many things can happen. So we have now e takes d5, bishop to g5. We have now bishop to b4. This is now similar to the Ragozin defense, not the same, of course. The Ragozin is when you still play knight to f3, but with similar ideas, with similar tactical and also positional problems. We have now this pin. Of course, white has much more trouble because of this bishop here, because this is now the absolute pin. The knight cannot move, of course, from the square c3. We have now the move e3 by Fabi, keeping the structure healthy in the center of the board, h6, and now after bishop to h4, here Jan Nepomniachtchi goes all in and goes now simply into the most aggressive line with the move g5. Here we have bishop to g3, knight to e4, hitting simply now the knight on c3 twice, also with the bishop, so that's why Fabi has to play now the move queen to c2, h5. Very amazing attack already here by Jan Nepomniachtchi. So see, because Jan had to also win the game, he's playing now a sharper line, a very aggressive line. Is of course in some lines even trying to trap the bishop here with the move h4. That's why Fabi tries f3. We have now knight takes g3, h takes g3, and now bishop to e6 here by Jan Nepomniachtchi. Bishop to d6. If you're asking yourself the question why didn't maybe black attack this pawn on g3 again, then white can simply castle. There is still this problem about the square d5. For instance, you're trying maybe something like bishop to g3, we attack the bishop. You're trying something like this, we can take the pawn on d5, we can let the pawn roll in the center of the board on e4. And notice in this position it's very hard for black to castle now on both of the sides. Of course, it doesn't have to be even this sideline, but I wanted to show you, because of this advanced pawns on the king side, black has really tough time to castle, which will, I think, which will be explained in the later stage of the game, why this structure is not so favorable for black, why black has really tough time to secure the king by castling. Because if you castle queenside, there is after c6 always maybe this tactic knight to d5, and your king is lined up here on the c file. So as I said, you'll see this problem in the later stage of the game. So here I don't think that this bishop to d6 idea is something spectacular here for Jan Nepomniachtchi. So that's why he played, I think, the normal way here. Instead of bishop to d6, he played simply bishop to e6, normal development. Fabi goes with bishop to d3. We have now the move d6, queenside castling, and now after knight to d7, here Fabi pulls off a theoretical novelty, f4, a move that has not been played so far in chess history. We have bishop to g4, knight to f3, normal development, queen to e7. So as I said, here Jan Nepomniachtchi is preparing queenside castling. Kingside castling, I think, is suicide anyway, because you have advanced too many pawns here on the king side, so you would expose your king too much. But castling queen side is also risky because of this tactic, as I said, knight to d5, and then you could lose the battle here a little bit on the c file. So that's why Fabi says here, okay, you have the bishop pair, you have maybe even the spaces here a little bit, but your king is stuck in the center, so that's why I'm opening up now the center with the move e4. And here Jan Nepomniachtchi doesn't react correctly immediately. He plays now, I think, not the optimal way here. He played here bishop to c3. Of course, he is annoyed by the possibility of knight takes d5 after queenside castling, but the better choice was simply to play d takes e4. It leads now into a very, very, very complicated line that I think only the engine can see. Here, after d takes e4, bishop to e4, you're trying maybe g takes f4, then rook from h to e1. You're trying, of course, to get an attack against the king, and actually black can even castle here. Although the queen is lined up now on the e file, as I said, very, very tough to see. I'm just showing you here a wild stockfish line. After queenside castling, bishop to c6, the queen is hanging. You can, of course, take out also. You can get the knight here on d5, king to b8, you take, because there is this threat of queen to c7. But now you play, oh, sorry about that. I pushed the position too far. So here, as I said, in this position, d takes e4, bishop to e4, g takes f4, now rook to e1, after queenside castling, bishop to c6. So now there is this problem for bishop takes b7 to get queen to c7. That was now the issue, but now you can get the queen back on d6 here, simply covering the c7 square. White can also take the bishop. You can also take the knight here on b4. The bishop is hanging, you have to retreat, and now you pick up simply here the knight after g takes, after you pick up also the pawn. Black has maybe some problems on light squares, but also white is here problems because black has two connected passers on the king side. So I would say here very, very intense game. Maybe even Jan Nepomniachtchi saw this line but didn't dare to play because of the exposed king. But as I said, this was just a stockfish line that the engine is suggesting here, how black should have proceeded here. But after move e4, Jan played bishop takes c3, as I said, annoyed by the possibility of knight takes d5. Queen takes c3 by Fabi. And now what should you do? If you play d takes e4, then we can play bishop to e4, followed with rook to e1, so you couldn't take the pawn. So that's why after queen to c3, bishop takes f3, g takes f3, d takes e4 now, bishop to e4, and now g takes f4. But now you see many pieces are off the board, but again black has problems where to castle. Again, this position is collapsing somewhere here around the square d5. Again, if you castle queenside, although Jan played a different sideline, I still think that he didn't solve all of the tactical problems that we have seen previously that were also possible with the move knight to d5. Now the pawn is rolling on d5. So very messed up position already, I would say, here for black. So after g takes f4, that's why Fabi plays also a very strong move, g4. He has now the tensions on the h file, the tensions on the c file, the tensions on the d file, and black's king is stuck in the center. Although black has an extra pawn, but it's very tough time now to survive this amazing attack by white. So here, again, Jan Nepomniachtchi doesn't react correctly. He doesn't play, again, the optimal move. Here he has to play h4. First of all, you keep your pawn on the board. Very important thing to say, but also you're forcing here white to make a move. For instance, if white moves now the king to b1, now you can queenside castling, and after something like d5, you can play something like this, knight to e5. Again, we would reach a similar position where, okay, your king is a little bit exposed, but you play king to b8, and the queen is close enough to the king. The queen will protect the king, and still you have this passer on the h file. Again, I would say a drawish position because white can always do some annoying checks, maybe grab some pawns here. Also, white's king is also not perfectly secured, is a little bit also exposed to potential attacks by black. So not a spectacular game, I think, also here for white. But okay, here after move g4, Jan Nepomniachtchi castled queenside immediately, which of course gives now Fabiano Caruana the immediate opportunity to play now the move d5. Now this idea of knight to e5 to protect the pawn is not working because here we'll simply take now the pawn on h5, and it's a different story now. Now Black doesn't have the passer on the h file. Actually, white has now the passer on the h file, and still you haven't solved all of the positional problems here on the queen side. So that's why a very, very messy line here immediately. Queenside castling by Fabi. So here, finally, Fabiano goes with h4. We have now d takes c6, knight to c5, hitting the bishop, trying somehow again to protect the b7 square. But here, Fabiano plays a good move. Bishop to f5, attacks the king, king to b8, and now king to b1. Brilliant move here by Fabi. Calm move that shows that he's ruling the board here, that he has the advantage here, that he has now almost, I would even dare to say, winning game here, because the king is now suddenly so exposed. What should you do here? Instead of this move king to b1, for instance, if Fabiano Caruana would have played c takes b7, then rook to d1 solves now all of the positional problems. And now, okay, the pawn is here, but basically it's standing in the way of white's attack. So it's really, really annoying to have your own pawn in order to attack the king. And also it stands a little bit in the way of the potential attack by the light square bishop. So that's why king to b1, good move here by Fabi. And now again, the tiny little inaccuracy by Nepo. Plays now the move b6, but again, he weakened now the light squares in front of his own king. Here Fabi plays the beautiful move, rook to d7. Really amazing stuff. For instance, if you try knight takes d7, then you get this one, d7, king to b7. We simply pick up this one, and now after something like, I don't know, rook to d1, rook to c1, there are many tactical problems. Rook to c1 threatens already some stuff. Bishop to e4 is going to happen. Bishop to e4, queen to c6. The game could be over soon here for black. So after rook to d7, that's why Nepo had to play now a rook takes d7. We have now c takes d7, rook to d8, queen to d4. Here Fabi is protecting now so far the pawn on d7, knight takes d7, but now here Nepo gets pinned. There's simply too much pressure here against the rook on the d file. The knight is locked here. If you get the king closer, of course, here something like king to c7 and queen to c3. We play a couple of zigzag checks, and now we play simply an attack against the queen. We can play b4. We can pick up the pawn. Again, a messed up position here for black. So after move rook to d1, that's why Nepo tried again queen to c5. Again, not the optimal way here to proceed. Again, Fabi plays the correct move, queen to f4. Doesn't want to trade off, of course, the queen when he's on the attacking side, because there is this problem. After something like b takes c5, it seems so that you could maybe grab the piece, but now actually after h3, you cannot stop the pawn. Actually, black is winning here. Really crazy position. So that's why Fabi calculated everything in a good way. Queen to f4. We have queen to c7, queen to d2. Here, Fabi still keeps this pressure on the d file. Is not allowing here Nepo to breathe. We have now the move h3, bishop to e4, with some ideas, of course, to play something like here queen to d5, and in some lines maybe even deliver checkmate on a8. We have now the move a5. We have queen to d5. We have now king to a7, and now Fabi picks up now another pawn. This is now, I think, a completely winning here game for white. So after move h2, Fabi simply goes for the pawn. We have king to b8. You see Nepo is desperately trying to make some moves. He's simply paralyzed. There's simply too much pressure here against all of this piece. We have now a3. Fabi creates some breathing spaces. Queen to e5. Here we have queen to h6, queen to c7, and now g5. Simply also pushing this pawn, and now this pawn is always immobile, because the queen and the rook are also protecting the weak square h1 here. So we have now rook to g8. Fabi goes with rook to h1, knight to c5, bishop to h7, with the preparation to play now g6, maybe then also g7 and g8. So that's why Nepo went to this line, rook to g5, sacrificed simply the exchange just in order to somehow stop. And he's relying, okay, he's saying, at least I have a check, at least I have here an attack against the pawn, at least I have the supported pawn. The king is a little bit exposed here. My knight is also close enough to the action, and believe it or not, under time pressure a little bit here, Fabiano Caruana didn't react correctly, which is really crazy. Here Fabiano Caruana should have played king to a2, and it's a little bit strange because you you're allowing your opponent here to deliver check on f7. But after king to b1, you're trying maybe a new check, and now after king to a1, you could maybe even deliver a new check. But now we get the king to b1. Now you maybe pick up this one, and now it's our turn to deliver checks. We deliver a check, and now we pick up the pawn. And actually, this should be again a winning game here for white. What white needs to do is, of course, somehow to trade off the queens, and this is game over. But what Fabi did here, instead of this move, king to a1, king to a2, he played king to a1, which gives here Nepo actually the opportunity to play queen to c2, and actually this is a thematic draw, believe me or not, because after knight to b3 there is always this problem: the queen and the rook are always stuck to the potential protection of the c1 square. Black can always play knight to b3, knight to c1, and always do some perpetual. Of course, here Fabi tried to deliver a check with queen to g8, but it's simply not working because we have always these problems: knight to b3 and knight to c1. So here, within one particular move, with one huge blunder, here Fabiano Caruana messed up his whole game. So after queen g8, here Nepo of course goes of course with king to a7. Now we have king to a2, and now a4. Here Nepo simply fixes further the b3 square, wants of course also to do some damage, maybe with the potential move knight to c1. Now Fabi goes with f4, and now comes another critical moment of the game. Here Nepo was lost. Nepo got out. Nepo finally survived, and here Nepo had still a drawish opportunity, but he made now another huge blunder, and I think this one cost it in the whole game. Here Nepo played the move knight to b3, the move that you're preparing, but actually you have to wait for this move, because what a better choice was here to play king to a6, and actually white cannot do anything here, believe me or not. Although white can of course deliver some checks, can also do something like this. After queen to c8, you cannot simply push the pawn further. Of course, this pawn is protected now, but now queen to c4, which would actually even win the game here for black. You get the check and you lose the rook. If you go, for instance, somewhere here, maybe to a1, then you get knight to b3, and here with this discovered attack, you lose the queen. So that's why white can always deliver some checks, but actually it's a really a beautiful thematic draw. But Nepo rushed here and played now the move knight to b3, which is not working because here Fabi finds a beautiful idea: queen to g7 and queen to c3. Finally, he brings this queen into the game, and suddenly, again, it's a losing game for Jan Nepomniachtchi. Here we have queen to g2, but of course, first a check here by Fabi, king to b7, rook to e1. Beautiful move, getting out of this mess, finally getting the rook into the game. Then the rook was always stuck to the defense of the potential promotion. You could maybe promote here, but now after rook to e7, you're running into a checkmate sequence. So although black has two queens now on the board, actually it would be a beautiful checkmate. So that's why for rook to e1, Nepo goes with knight to c5, queen to f1. Good move, supporting also the h1 square, and also supporting here the potential path of the pawn. We have queen to d5 by Nepo, king to b1, queen to f5, king to a1. We have queen to c2, but now here Fabi can finally push the pawn with the move f5. Here Nepo tried with knight to d3, tried to deliver even checkmate, but of course it's protectable. Rook to b1, knight to c5. Here Fabi simply pushed the pawn further. Knight to b3, okay, you have your check, but you don't have access anymore to the c4 square, where you could maybe play discover check or something, because Fabi is covering the square. So finally Fabi plays the best endgame technique. You see, all of Fabi was winning in one particular moment. He almost messed up his whole game. After king to a2, we have now knight to d2, the fork, but it doesn't matter, of course. First of all, we have the check. The king has to step back, and now rook to c1, hitting the queen, and after queen to b3 again, here Fabi goes with king to a1, and Nepo simply is trying, of course, to somehow stop this potential path of the pawn on the f-file. After queen e6, here Fabi has a completely winning game. He has to play here rook to d1. After something like knight to b3, king to b1 can happen. Of course, Nepo would probably attack this rook. You cannot take the pawn. Then you just push the pawn. Maybe you get to deflect it a little bit. You take, but also when white takes out now the pawn, on h2. This I think has to be now completely winning endgame here for white. But after move queen to e6, the fun continues. Here, Fabiano Caruana plays a bad move, rook to c7, which again gives Nepo equality. So again, Nepo can get back into the game, can at least get a draw. Here we have king to a6, it gets an equal position because after f7, here that Fabiano Caruana pushed, we have knight to b3 again, and after king to b1, there is now a spectacular endgame theme that Jan Nepomniachtchi could have played, but unfortunately for him, he missed. Very tough to see him and see, and we have to say both players had not so much time on the clock, so we can understand why they make some really bad mistakes. After king to b1, there is now really an epic idea to make a draw here with the move knight to d2, which Nepo really missed. After something like king to c2, of course you have to now go towards the center. Now you play queen to g6. You allow even here white to take out now the knight to d2. Now you deliver further check. After something like king to c2, if you start to run on this side of the board, we deliver a check, and you cannot simply get again on the first rank. You cannot get here because you get this one, queen to g1, and actually white could even lose the game. So that's why here after queen to g5, this wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show how brutal this position is. Endgames are really wild, although the evaluation bar jumps up and down. It's very tough to see this themes. Look at this. After queen to g5, king to e2, black will simply deliver a new check, although here white can also pick up now this pawn. We deliver simply here check, and now after something like king to e4, queen to e4, you have to now, I don't know, if you step back then you lose the queen. If you play of course here, then we do again this perpetual check with queen to h4. So if you step back, allow here black to pick up the queen, then after this promotion, look at this, you can never really go to this side of the board. If you go here with a king to h4, then you get queen to h2, we pick up this pawn. If you go on this side of the board, then you lose of course here, and then you lose the queen on the f file. So this was Nepo's chance to again make a draw here with move knight to d2, but after king to b1, Nepo plays now another blunder, and finally again here Fabiano Caruana has a completely winning game. So let's continue. This is not over. This is really brutal. This is really up and down. So after king to a2, knight to c5 again by Nepo, check here by Fabi, a new check by Fabi, king to a6 again, queen to a8, and after king to b5, now another blunder here by Fabi, because if he plays again, if Nepo plays, of course, like he did with king to a6, queen to a8 would be the third time the same position, so it would be a thematic draw. So that's why after king to a6, here Fabi had to play now rook to e7, but this allows now Nepo again to get back into the game, and again it's a draw, believe me or not. So instead of this move queen to c6, what Fabi should have played is this line, queen to e8. Very complicated again. Look at this crazy position. After queen to e8, king to a6, this was the line that Fabi should have played. We promote, maybe you get a check. You allow even this promotion by black here on h1, but now you can cover, and again we would have the position where white is up the exchange, and again I would say this would be a completely winning end here for white. But after queen to c6, as I said, the second time Nepo goes here, Fabi has to make now a different move, and now here Nepo gets the queen, is of course threatening the promotion. Here Fabi has to deliver some checks, delivered of course here a couple of checks, again a new check, and now he tried this idea, rook to e4, offering a trade of pieces of here Nepo accepts the challenge. We have now queen to a4, a new check by Fabi. He picks up even of course the piece with the check, but it doesn't matter. Here Nepo stays simply on the 7th rank and also on the 6th rank. Here Fabi simply promoted the queen, but now Nepo can pick up the queen, and after queen to f8 here, Nepo can also promote the queen. This is now again a completely drawish position. Although white is up a pawn, but in these positions you can always get checked, so it's very tough to advance your pawn. So Fabiano Caruana messed up the completely winning game. So after h1, the promotion by Nepo, Fabi is of course trying to battle somehow here with the move a4, but now queen to d5, simply putting a couple of checks. Even if you trade off maybe here pawn or something, then still the king is exposed, always vulnerable to some checks. Here after a couple more moves, Fabi is of course trying to trade off the queens when the queens are off the board. With the 2 versus 1 situation, of course, white is winning, but not in this case here. Nepo is of course keeping it calm. He's not allowing here Fabi to do anything. Here Nepo keeps again the queen on the 6th rank. It's not allowing here the king to get closer. King drops back again. Again, a couple of checks by Fabi, but nothing spectacular. Again, Nepo is not allowing the king to get closer. Fabi is forced to step back, and here after queen to f3, queen to d4, queen to d2, we have here a new check by Nepo. Nepo is again keeping the same position all over the board. We have now king to b3, king to a7, queen to e2, queen to d5, check. Again, a queen to d4, and after king to b3, both players after 109 moves agreed to a draw, which means that Gukesh is the winner of the FIDE Candidates in 2024. Congratulations to Gukesh. I think he deserved it. He simply played the best chess in this event. The game between Gukesh and Nakamura also ended with a draw, with half of the point more than the followers. Gukesh is now the winner and has now a historical chance to become the world's youngest World Chess Championship in history. So this is really epic. There is also beautiful shorts on ChessBase India. Please check it out, where Gukesh was asked what are his plans 7 years ago, and he mentioned that he would love to become the world's youngest world champion in chess. I wish him all of the best. It's a tough quest, of course. He still has to play against Ding Liren, but if he continues to play like this, he has a great chance to really rewrite new chess history, new epic chess history. This was amazing. This was a tough tournament, but I think we have a fair winner, Gukesh. So crazy, really incredible tournament it was. It was really an up and down. Even Pragananda, I think, had in one particular moment a good result. Also, Vidit Santos Gurati played also very aggressive chess, won also some games, lost also some games, had also tough time against Jan Nepomniachtchi, where he lost the game where he should have won. So many great games we have seen, and we have now the winner of the 2024 FIDE Candidates. Crazy stuff. So okay, I hope that you like this game. It was a really tough one. You see also the top GMs, the strongest players in the world, make mistakes. But it symbolizes that who makes the less mistakes, I think, is the best player. You see, that's why I think we have Magnus Carlsen is the strongest player in the world, because he doesn't make these tiny little inaccuracies, especially in endgames. He's an endgame master. He can reach, of course, sometimes a position like this, but he doesn't make so many mistakes, I would say, like Fabiano, Caruana, Jan Nepomniachtchi, and other players. That was always Magnus Carlsen's strength, but now Gukesh has the opportunity to really break a very important world chess record. So far, it's held by Garry Kasparov. Garry Kasparov is the youngest world champion in history with 22 years. Gukesh is now only 17 years. He'll become, I think, 18 in the next month. So he can be really beautiful chess story for the future. So okay, I hope that you also enjoyed my analysis here of some games that we have covered here from the Candidates 2024. If you want to see some other games that we have covered, please check it out. Here are some links of some games that we have seen, and if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Gukesh is the best, of course.